Okay, just what were some of my challenges? When I first conceptualized Meowser, I thought I was just going to put element samples in a cabinet and turn lights on and off, and how simple can that be, right? Well, for one thing, I quickly decided that a cabinet full of metals was going to be kind of boring. Here's a guy who sells coins made out of metals, and you can see all the coins are just, they're all gray. So a cabinet full of gray stuff with lights going on and off was like, yeah, okay. So that's when I changed to minerals, because minerals are pretty and they have red and green and all different colors and shapes and sizes and crystals, and it'd be a lot more interesting and cool. So that was one bump in the road. Another is the electronics part of it. I thought, well, I would just be hooking up LEDs. Well, no. As it turns out, the Arduino is great at bit shifting and switching at low voltages, but the LEDs, which I went through a whole process of discovery with LEDs, I'd had to use high power LEDs to get enough lighting for the cabinet, not just your normal cabinet indicator type LEDs. So to be able to power a bunch of LEDs, I landed on using the computer power supply, which had barely enough amperage for those LEDs. And I have to have interfaces between the Arduino and the LEDs to be able to switch them on and off. That's when I discovered I would need transistor arrays to do the switching, which is, you can buy chips that have transistor arrays. I learned all this as I Googled the internet and tried to figure out how to hook all this together. I also, the Arduino only has so many pins. You can only power so many different wires with an Arduino. So in order to power a good number of cabinets, which I wanted to be able to scale this thing up, you have to be able to send bytes of information and split the bytes up into bits so that you can get enough LEDs hooked up to each one of the pins on the Arduino. So I came up with the whole schematic, and I ordered all the components. Most of them were from China. So another challenge, of course, was during prototyping, I was never quite sure that something was going to work. I would order one piece from China, wait a month, hook it up, play with it. Yep, I need that. Give me 100. And I order 100 from China, wait another month. So of course, that was part of my 3-year timeline there, because half the time I don't know what I'm doing, and then half the time I'm waiting for something from China. I ordered a few minerals from China also, so those take a while to get here. But in general, I say China because it's cheap. I'm cheap, and I wanted cheap stuff, so that's where it all came from. Another one of the challenges with this project for me was I decided to use, I'm a software developer, so I know how to write code, but I had to learn a couple things. I decided to use Microsoft's new Entity Framework 4.0 for my data access methodology. I ran into a few challenges with my database tab and data administration, which I'm still not happy about, but I used it and I learned about Entity Framework. I'm familiar with C# code and WinForm development, so that was okay. Another thing I had to learn was the Arduino development environment. There's Arduino, to make it do something, you have to write usually small chunks of code to run on the Arduino. So I had to learn what's called processing is the name of the language that the Arduino uses. So I learned that environment and played with it to be able to write the software that the Arduino was going to run. Another one of my challenges was the interface between the computer and the Arduino using the USB connection. It wasn't too hard to get it going with COM ports and such. What I ran into was, at one point I was able to deliver the value of 0 to my Arduino, and I ran into the trouble where I could no longer deliver 0. I could deliver 1, I could deliver the value of 2, but 0 for some reason disappeared for me. It just didn't work. And for a couple other reasons, I ended up, even though I needed 1 byte of information for each of my cabinets, I ended up delivering nibbles, which is I divided each byte in half into a nibble, 4 bits at a time, and I had to rework my interfaces a little bit to be able to deliver that information. So I got hung up in some technical difficulties there with my serial communications.